Welcome to Influence Spotlights. I'm Chris Templeton, and I'm very pleased to be here with a fascinating man, Kevo. Welcome, Kevo. You are about to open a play called What Do We Do Now on April
Yep.
10th. Thanks for being
Yes,
here.
sir. The play is April 10th, Easter Monday.
Kevo, one of the things that fascinates me, I've done a little bit of background on you in terms of going through your website. You have all kinds of talents: tattooing, filmmaking, painting. How did you get to this place?
I'm an artist, and I believe that, I believe that's God given, but in terms of how I got where I am, it's definitely just my own hard work. I give credit to my passion and my work ethic.
Talk a little bit about your background getting to this place of becoming an
All
artist.
right. So, like I said, I've always, that's been my gift from a child, right? And in a way, art kind of saved me from the street background that I usually don't talk about because I don't dwell on the past. But to keep a long story short, I was raised without my parents. My aunt raised me. Uh, I ended up just being a product of my environment. I was a big drug dealer in my area. Went to jail a few times. Well, been in a lot of shootouts. I ended up getting shot when I was younger. And like that cycle of doing street stuff, it never really ended until I decided to focus on, art. And the more I focused on the art, the less I cared about the street stuff because all I care about to this day, honestly, is creating. You know what I mean?
So, when you use the word creating, talk a little bit about what that means for you. Like, what is it that drives you with all this creativity?
Well, since I paint, I tattoo, I draw, I make films, I do theater, I write. The thing is that some things can't be expressed in a painting. Some things can't be expressed in a tattoo. Some things have to be expressed in a song. So there's times where I've used that knowledge of understanding how I feel that things need to be expressed to be creative. For example, I'll say, you know, I probably can't paint this, but I know will make a great photograph. You know what I mean? So
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
just really understand creativity in a different kind of way, I guess.
So, you've made films, you've done all kinds of paintings, which, by the way, art by
Yeah.
kevo.com. Go check that out. Um, you're now writing plays. Talk about what do we do now and where you got started with that.
Man, what do we do now happens so fast. So I start getting phone calls because people know I'm pretty knowledgeable in art and African American history. So when Kanye West and Kyrie Irving were having their issues with the Jewish community, people start calling me to ask my opinion. And no offense to these people, but I was like, man, we really don't understand a lot about our history. So I should write something about this. I don't want to make a painting. So I was going to write a book, and I was like, nah, I don't feel like writing a book. I'll just write a play. I wrote the play. I published a condensed version on Amazon. And normally when I write something, it usually doesn't get a review unless I promote it. But within a week, it had like 5 reviews. So I was like, what? That's kind of odd. And over the upcoming weeks, it just kept getting reviewed and kept getting reviewed. So I sat down with some filmmakers I know, and I talked to my friend Draper about it, and he was like, "Yeah, let's get it done." So it's gonna be have its first adaptation in April. It literally came out of that creativity came out of that spark of let me act on this right now. People are interested in this. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Give everybody a little background of the story.
All right, so the story, there is nothing like What Do We Do Now? I can say that. There is nothing like it. The story takes place in 1965 for a great reason, uh, but it's based on issues that African Americans have faced within the culture of being African American from 1940 to 2020. So let me explain what I was giving it away. I gave it to a fictional family. I gave these issues to a fictional family. So they deal with anything you can think of that Black people went through in Black exploitation films. Like, for example, pimping. They deal with that. Selling of drugs. They deal with that. Doing drugs. They deal with that. Your place in the economy. Conspiracies that even not people who don't identify as Black, like Caribbeans, Jamaicans, being in the neighborhood with Black people. They even experience that. It's a very creative way to highlight. It's like, I call it infotainment. It's like information, but it's entertaining. And again, it's based in 1965, which is, I thought that was the perfect year to make this play
in. And why was that?
Well, because based on my knowledge of our culture, our history, 1965 is where Jim Crow started to end. And if people don't understand about, the Jim Crow laws, they were, to a lot of Black people, they were worse than slavery. So I wanted to highlight an area of where things were harder and people still were trying to still getting by, and compare that to a time like now where things were deemed easier and people are having a hard time to get by. So I just wanted to show people, like, you go look at the book of Jim Crow laws, it's like this thick, telling you, we couldn't even have this conversation. I wouldn't be allowed to look another Black person in the eye. That was a law, So I'm really big on stuff like that, the Civil Rights Act and things like that. So I was like, man, let's highlight this. It's not really highlighted much.
When you think about 1965 and the setting for this play, and you think about today, it sounds like you're saying, guess what? There's still a lot of parallels. Is that true?
That's almost exactly what I'm saying verbatim. I'm showing you that from 1940 to 2020, not much has changed. And if you take a family and you throw them in one of the hardest years, look at how they would have dealt with this, And it's so crazy because if you remember, the 60s had, I think, 5 or 6 assassinations, you know what I mean? And that's also, everybody experienced it, but I wanted to show how vicariously African Americans experienced it.
And when you think about that, what's kind of the overriding idea of how they experienced it?
In my opinion, the idea would be that it has a bigger impact on our culture, let's say assassinations, than things that matter on a day-to-day. So we would have to live not knowing where our next meal is going to be, while at the same time dealing with, man, John F. Kennedy just got killed. Now, in so many ways to look at this, someone can say, well, why does this matter, right? Why does this matter to you so much? And it's because African Americans are very vicarious people, meaning that things can happen on the outside and really affect the inside. Like, now this mother doesn't want her son to ever go outside. You know what I mean? So that's the way that it affects it. Martin Luther King, Trayvon Martin passed. Now, this affected a generation of, 20 years from now, people are going to be like, hey, don't you be hanging around security guard, and it's just how it goes.
It is really distressing to be on my side of it and see the pain and the assumptions about who we are as Black people, who we are as white people. And it seems to me that those assumptions are really the foundation of all of these problems, aren't they?
Yeah, assumptions do create ignorance. One thing I wanted to really note in the play is I wanted to do something that wasn't bad for somebody's branding. Meaning that, all right, two of the big things in the play is the family is African American, their neighbors are African, and their assumptions keep them from talking to each other. There's a white lady in the play. Their assumptions keep them from not understanding each other. So I wanted to make something that really highlights, everything isn't what you think it is. You have to really, it's cliche to say knowledge is power, but you really have to learn about something to actually have an opinion on it.
What do you think the solution is? How do we, as all these different cultures and races, get past those assumptions
Wow.
and get to real conversation?
All right, so that's a beautiful question. I honestly think that it's based on your heart, wherever your spirit is. Let's say you want to take the positive route. I think that we should let go of the past. I think that's the only way to move forward is to, if you are not allowed to bring up the past. And I say that to say that you have to stand on a decision. If we decide that we're going to coexist, we have to let go of the past and move forward with a newer system, because a lot of the negativity is in the systems, not in the people. We have to redo the systems and let go of the past. Now, if you don't have that positive attitude to be willing to do something like that, then I think you just have to fend for your own people. And that's something that I wouldn't want to do, but I think that that's the only way to and when I say your people, you're like-minded people, because nobody's going to agree to disagree with something so strong to the core as ignorance.
It is a really, really tough one. One of the things I saw an interview that you did a number of years ago, and you made a decision after you had been in jail and had been shot to really change how you were going to approach your life. I can't remember specifically how you stated it, but it was like, I'm not going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that change in your perspective and how it informs the play.
All right. So reading has been very big for me, right? So I realized that when I was younger, I read different books, but I realized that after I read the books were challenging my perspective, right? So reading didn't change how I think. It just influenced my perspective in a way to say, are you sure that your best thinking is the best thinking? Are you sure that what's gotten you here is the greatest idea? Because people do what they think is cool, to be honest with you. Like, if you like reading, you think that shit is cool. If you like cartoons, you think that's cool. If you like rap music, you think that's cool. So you're going to do what you think is cool. And I didn't think what I was doing was cool. I was genuinely doing what I was doing to make money. I was genuinely in the streets because we was poor. I wasn't in the streets to make rap songs. And within seeing that crowd of people who were just doing stuff to be doing it, I'm like, they some fools. So a lot of reading made me have that discipline to say, you know what, you're too smart to be doing this. So it challenged my perspective and forced me to say, you could be doing something else. I don't know what something else is, but you're going to figure it out. The you right now can't figure that out. The you 2 years from now will figure that out.
How do you see those changes for you informing how the play was written and how it comes out to the public?
That's a good question. I think that makes me feel like I'm marketing a little bit, because I feel like that if my audience is coming to see it, then they kind of have an idea that this is the type of stuff I would actually write. But if they didn't know, I think that it would show that somebody doesn't have a arbitrary opinion of these events. Somebody has a solid opinion. Whoever wrote this, they will watch it like, whoever wrote this knows what they're talking about, because it's not, I'll give you a spoiler. There's a little kid uh, and a girl, an older girl, a teenager, having a conversation in the play, and the kid tells the girl, you know, my mom was with your brother, and the girl is assuming, you know, oh, my brother must be banging the mother, you know, but the audience knows that nah, your brother is selling drugs to the mother, you know, and in the 90s, like early 80s, 90s, late 80s, that was so normal that we were in a way really ruining the community and not even knowing it. Like and then just making jokes about it. You know what I mean? So whoever watches it will know, like, oh yeah, this person, they've either lived this or they know what they're writing. They're not just playing guessing games.
Couple of final questions. What do you want your Black audience to take away from this play?
I want them to consider it a beautiful work of art and not just Black art. Um, I want them to consider it a work of art, not just Black art. If they want to take it as a message, then fine. But the title is a question. What do we do now? But I want it to be considered a work of art.
And for non-Black audience, what do you want them to take away?
The same thing. My non-Black audience, I want it to be respected as a work of art. There's nothing like, I've never seen someone tackle a timeline in this fashion and be able to put all of these different things inside of it. So the non-Black audience can also become a little bit more educated about the humanity and survival of African Americans, and not so quick to judge perspectives, because a lot of this stuff is, you can see it. The subtext is so fine that you can see the misunderstandings, you know. But yeah, work of art.
Work of art. I love it. Kevo, you can be found at artbykevo.com. And if you go there, the fourth main nav item is Tickets, Kevo's Play, and that will take you over to matchhouston.org and right to the play page, What Do We Do Now? A play in 2 acts. One last question.
What's up?
When you look back at this, what do you think the greatest takeaway for you is? What are you most pleased about?
That's a good question. I'm most pleased that I took my time with producing this play with my friend Draper. Listen to him. You know, I found a great cast, and I'm doing it. I don't want to use the word right, but I'm not just BSing this play. I'm most pleased about how I'm working with trying to get it done.
Well, I want to congratulate you on this and all the other things that you do, the tattooing, the painting, the films. You've got a film on YouTube called Trapped. Yeah. Really impressive. And I think the thing that I take away from it is you somehow have figured out how to get past all the noise of our culture overall, of Black culture, of white culture, and find a place to move forward that really serves you and then serves the people around you. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's well said. That's well said. That's definitely true.
Kevo, it's been an absolute pleasure. Once again, go to artbykevo.com. The fourth nav item is Tickets Kevo's Play. Click there and go get tickets for the play, which is opening on April 10th. What do we do now?
What do we do now? Thank you.
Thanks so much.